Let's have a look at the entry list for the weekend. Good to see Christian England back behind the wheel of the number 2 United Autosports car that he wants more shares again with Andrew Evans. Second in the championship, Tony Wells and Matt Bell are partnered together. And the number 9 Nielsen racing car, Dean Gibbs, is driving with Alex Capaldi, who's got plenty of experience in LMP cars. The number 72 car, Callan O'Keefe, making his sports car debut. He's going to drive solo all weekend. And the championship leaders, Alistair McCaig and Colin Noble at the number 79 car. Andrew Bentley joins Jack Butel in the number 96 Speedworks machine.
Hi, I'm Alistair McCaig, and this is my onboard lap from the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit in qualifying. Here we are in the run down to the start-finish line, lining up Copse Corner. Stick over to the left, 6th gear down to 5th, turn it in early, catch the apex, and carrying all the speed out to the exit on the run down to Maggots and Beckett's. Holding it right, taking the curb on the right, the left, down 1 gear into Maggots, down 2 gears into Beckett's, and just trying to carry all the speed possible out onto the hanger straight. It's absolutely critical to get every mile an hour down the hanger straight on the run down to Stowe. So up to 6th gear, braking late, down 2 gears to 4th, turning it in and running the car all the way out to the exit curb. Up to 5th. The run into Vale, very slow corner down to 2nd gear. So important here just to keep it nice, neat and tidy. And again, trying to maximise the exit speed through Club and down the Formula 1 pitch straight to Abbey Corner. 5th gear here, very light touch of the brakes, through in 5th, holding 5th all the way around here. Very quick section of the circuit. And down into the farm village, 2nd gear, and back down to 1st, lowest gear corner of the whole circuit. And again, very important to get a good exit out of village. This is the Wellington straight, up to 6th gear, and down to the BRDC complex. We're hitting 6th gear here, late brake. Quite a wide arc in here down to 3rd gear, and then into Luffield, down 1 more gear into 2nd. Got to be really patient with the throttle here to get a good exit. And that's my qualifying lap of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit.
Here's the way that they line up then for this weekend. The number 2 car driven by Christian England, first of all, starts on pole position. Alongside is number 79, Alistair McCaig. Row 2 of the grid will see Andrew Bentley behind the wheel of the number 96 car for the start of the race, and number 3, which is Tony Wells. And the 3rd and final row of the grid, Callan O'Keefe, number 72, the Douglas Motorsports car, and the number 9 car, which will be started by Dean Gibbs. So the safety car is about to peel its way into the pit lane. We're about to get round 7 of the 2017 Henderson Insurance Brokers LMP3 Cup Championship underway, with already Andrew Bentley having a problem heading to the pit lane before the lights even go out, which they do now, and the pack charge their way up towards what is Copse Corner for the first time. And as they head in towards Copse, there's locked brakes from Callan O'Keefe, who makes the lightest of contacts with the tail end of Alistair McCaig. And Callan O'Keefe, who's got an extra 60 seconds to spend in the pits because he's driving solo and knew he had got a lot of work to do, has got even more to do now because he's tumbled to the back of the pack and is off the main field of cars, which are already turned their way through Beckett's for the first time. It's the United Autosports car of pole sitter Christian England that's out front and leading the race at this stage. It looks as though it is Alistair McCaig who's there in 2nd position. Tony Wells is there in 3rd place, and falling away a little bit in 4th place already is the car of Dean Gibbs. Callan O'Keefe we could just see in the distance, and poor old Andrew Bentley in the pit lane having work done to the number 96 United Autosports car as the leaders thread their way out of Stowe, down in towards the braking area for the Vale for the first time. So action already as Christian England threads his way through the Vale and up towards Club Corner, the reigning European Le Mans Series LMP3 champion leading the race. There goes the number 3 car in the hands of the reigning Radical European champion. That is Tony Wells. He is sitting there behind his main championship rival, Alistair McCaig, at this stage. So 1st and 2nd in the championship are 2nd and 3rd in this race at the moment, and it's this car, the number 2 machine, in the hands of Christian England that's out front and leading the race. So they turn their way through what is Village and then up towards the loop. There goes Dean Gibbs, having his 2nd season of motorsport and has stepped up from the GT Cup, having driven an Aston Martin GT3. In the pit lane is the number 96 Speedworks car. I said it had a problem. The team at this stage still busy working away with whatever the problem is with that car. It's clearly costing them time, and they still reside in the pit lane, losing lap after lap in the early stages of this 1 hour race here for round 7 of the championship, with the car out front being the number 2 United Autosports car in the hands of Christian England. Over the start-finish line, concludes another lap. These cars, which produce huge amount of power and downforce, can go so quickly through Copse Corner, and carrying all of that speed through the right-hander goes Alistair McCaig. Bounces over the curbs on the exit of the corner, which just unsettles the car a little bit. They don't mind a little bit of bouncing over the curbs, but unlike a GT3 car, they're slightly more fragile, the LMP3 cars. And as they now turn their way through Beckett's Corner, the top 3 looking fairly equidistantly spread, with Christian England leading, Alistair McCaig in second place. That man there, Tony Wells, completing the top 3. And up to 4th at the moment by the look of things. In the background is now Callan O'Keefe at the wheel of the Douglas Motorsports car, the South African driver who currently lies 6th in the BRDC Formula 3 Championship standings, making his LMP3 Cup debut this weekend. Alistair McCaig in second place, safely through Stowe, trying to hunt down this car here. Christian England, who turns his way into the Vale. The top 3 at this stage looking fairly equidistantly spread as they turn their way through the right-hander at Club Corner. We managed to catch up with Christian Dick, team manager though for Speedworks in the pit lane, to find out what the problem was with the number 96 car.
Christian, can you tell us what the issue was with the car?
Well, I think I know we had a pit lane speed limiter issue. Why we've had it, we're not sure yet, but obviously it's disappointing. It's cost us quite a lot of time at the start of the race.
So a few laps lost at the beginning of the race, but looks as though the team are fairly confident the problem is sorted, and now Andrew Bentley can show the true pace he's got behind the wheel of the car, and hopefully be fairly satisfied that the problem is sorted for race 2 of the weekend. Look at the charging Douglas Motorsport car, number 72, in the hands of Callan O'Keefe. Having had that spin at the first corner, he has now managed to catch fully almost up with the leading pack of cars, and the fight is beginning to form now for 3rd position. Tony Wells still in 3rd, Callan O'Keefe charging his way up onto the coattails of the car that currently lies 2nd in the championship standings. Callum not scoring points this weekend. He'll also have an extra 60 seconds to spend in the pit, so he needs to get on with it here. No real overtaking opportunity through Maggott or Beckett, but as he heads out of Chapel Curve and onto the Hanger Straight, that gives him a real good opportunity to maybe get himself into the overall podium places when they head up towards Stowe Corner, before the pit window, of course, and before he spends that additional 60 seconds in the pit. So all of the hard work now will come undone come the pit stop window, but that's not going to stop him squeezing his way up the inside and taking the place away from what is Tony Wells. So Callan O'Keefe is now up into 3rd place. He can see the next of the cars ahead of him on the road, and it's this car here in the hands of Alistair McCaig, the car that currently leads the championship, himself and Colin Noble, with that Nielsen Racing prepared, a Courier Cost supported machine. Turning our way through Copse Corner, Callan O'Keefe way wide, going beyond the curb line coming out of the corner, so he needs to be careful to stay within the confines of the circuit. But these enormously powerful cars, they weigh about 930 kilos, but 420 brake horsepower from the V8 Nissan engine, X-Track 6-speed gearbox. There's no traction control, there's no ABS, and well, Callan O'Keefe, you would have thought that he would have spent hour after hour behind these cars, because the way he's driving at the moment, the South African is the class of the field. And he's now managed to catch up with the championship leading car that's in the hands of Alistair McCaig at this stage. Well, Alistair will know that Callan O'Keefe is not here for championship points this weekend, so how difficult is he going to make it for the South African to squeeze his way through? Well, he's not going to let him through at Stowe Corner by the look of things, so they head downhill in towards the Vale, and yeah, I think the penny drops. So Alistair McCaig allows Callan O'Keefe to go through, largely because, despite the fact he's gained a place, the number 72 car, he has not taken any more championship points away from the Scotsman. So he drops down to 3rd in the race, but is still 2nd when it comes to the championship point scoring. Here is the race leader, Christian England, and again you can see Callan O'Keefe charging his way. He's not just been chipping away at the deficit that exists between himself and the cars around. He's been taking big chunks out of it. It really has been a fantastic debut for the South African, who comes over the start-finish line this time through and records the fastest lap of the race as well. So great driving from Callan O'Keefe. He's only ever driven single-seaters before. He's not driven a sports car, he's not driven a saloon car, but he has adapted beautifully well to these powerful high downforce cars, and he's turning his way through Village up towards the loop, and is now very much firmly in the mirrors of the race leader as he's trying to hunt him down, and they propel themselves down the Wellington Straight. So they head over the start-finish line. And you can see just how close it is now. Christian England getting caught by Callan O'Keefe, who's moving around in the mirrors to try and put off the race leader. And I think the inevitable is surely not that far away for Christian England, who is not a slow driver. Of course, the reigning European LMP3 Cup champion. The pit window is now open as well, so any of the cars now can opt as to when they want to come into the pits and conduct what is a mandatory driver change, apart from Callan O'Keefe, of course, who will remain behind the wheel of the car for the second part of the race, but as a result of that have to spend an extra 60 seconds in the pit lane, so he sweeps through to take the lead of the race. But with the pit window open, that's all going to come undone in a few laps' time, when surely he'll head to the pit lane, and well, with a 60-second additional pit stop, he's going to lose a raft of time. Cars coming out of the pit lane. That's Tony Wells, who's now given way to Matt Bell at the wheel of the number 3 car. Pit window open at Silverstone. Join us for more from LMP3 Cup after the break. Welcome back to Silverstone for round 7 of the 2017 Henderson Insurance Brokers LMP3 Cup. The number 72 car in the hands of Callan O'Keefe leading the race. The pit window is open, so some drivers in the process of changing over. For Callan O'Keefe, though, he will remain behind the wheel of the car. He's the only driver that's going solo, so he has an extra 60 seconds to spend in the pit lane. Back out of the pits comes the number 9 car. That's now safely in the hands of Alex Capardi, making his debut in the LMP3 Cup champion. Driver that's well used to racing LMP3 cars in Europe over the last few years, and just a few weekends ago was racing Euro NASCAR at Brands Hatch. We managed to catch up with Alistair McCaig after his stint.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, really. Got hit at the start, I think, by our championship contender Tony, but I think he tagged me on the back right corner, but we got away with it. It was a bit of a moment, but kept it in a straight line. And other than that, we pulled a gap from Tony and all the guys behind, and we brought it in third. So yeah, pretty straightforward stint. So see how Colin gets on now.
The start was okay, but I had to lift off because other people were spinning around me, so I didn't really get the jump on Alistair. I hoped to, but basically I ran third. The guy who's not scoring points came past. I let him through. Alistair pulled away a little bit at the beginning, and then I pulled a bit back, and then we were about nip and tuck at the end, so it's going to be very close.
So back out of the pit lane following his mandatory pit stop comes Callan O'Keefe. For him, it's not just the mandatory 70 seconds, it's the extra 60 seconds on top because he's driving solo, and all of that hard work done in part 1 of the race, coming off the back of the grid, having the spin at the first corner and fighting his way through into the lead, he's going to have to repeat in part 2 of the race in what are very, very, very warm conditions here. He's come back out onto circuit in 4th position, and therefore he's going to have to charge his way back through the pack once more. Here comes the main pack of cars up towards Village, of which the race leader, Christian England, is going to be at the tail end of this little quartet. There is the car that's now in the hands of Matt Bell. Behind it is the sister car of Christian England that leads the race, but it hasn't pitted as yet, and it's now catching the traffic that has. So now would be the sensible point to bring that number 2 car into the pits and hand it over to the American driver, Andrew Evans, for part 2 of the race as he threads his way onto the Wellington Straight and does indeed opt to come into the pits at the end of the lap. So the United Autosports guys go to work cleaning the windscreen, checking the tyre pressures, another one assisting with the extrication of Christian England, changing over the seat insert, and then into the car will go Andrew Evans. Let's catch up with Christian England, though, in the pits after his stint.
Obviously we got a pretty decent start. I noticed in the mirrors after Cops there was a few cars off the track, so I got a jump there, got the head down and managed to make a break. We've been struggling a bit this weekend with car setup. I don't know why we've not fully got the car dialed in certainly to the way I like it. We struggled a little bit for pace towards the end of the race there. The Douglas car caught us, and they're not in the championship fight, so I let them through, to be honest, and tried to hang on. But we didn't quite have the pace, but we brought in second, as you say, and now Andrew can go out there and do the business.
So back out into the race shortly will go Andrew Evans, which means that now this car here in the hands of Colin Noble is going to be in second in the race at the moment, because of course, if you recall, Callan O'Keefe had that extra 60 seconds to spend in the pit, so he's dropped down the order through into 4th position. And Therefore, that's going to change the dynamic of the sharp end of the race. Back out of the pit lane comes Andrew Evans, the number 2 car heading up towards the exit of the pit lane, and Maggots and Beckett's in the lead of the race. This car here, Colin Noble, in 2nd position. Then we get the lapped car of Alex Capardia before we then get the 3rd place car, number 3, that's now in the hands of Matt Bell, former British GT racer. We've seen him racing in the Asian Le Mans Series this year. We've also seen him racing at Bathurst previously. So leader is Andrew Evans, having had a great stint put in by Christian England to build the advantage before it was whittled down by Callan O'Keefe. Well, now it is still Andrew Evans that leads the race and has quite a handsome margin in reality as he heads up towards the area of Stowe Corner, almost the whole length and a bit more of the hangar straight between himself and this car here, the Ecuria Cost-supported car that's prepared by the Nielsen Racing team in the hands of Colin Noble. That car is leading the championship. It's had 4 victories so far this year, and now you can see Colin Noble is really starting to close the gap between himself and Andrew Evans, so charging his way up onto the coattails of the race leader. And as he comes in towards the braking area for Vale, Andrew Evans just doesn't seem to quite have the car underneath him he'd want at this stage, because he's struggling for grip, and looks like Colin Noble's going to squeeze his way through at Club Corner. Yep, through he goes to take up the lead of the race. So Colin Noble leads. Andrew Evans now down into 2nd position and being caught by the sister car as well, the number 3 car that's now in the hands of Matt Bell, so in danger of slipping down to 3rd place here, Andrew Evans, who, now whether he's struggling either with the heat, whether the car is now just not quite handling as he wishes, or whether it's maybe the tyres are not quite in the sweet spot anymore, but either way Andrew Evans is coming under pressure and has indeed already lost the place. So Matt Bell up into 2nd place, down to 3rd goes the American driver Andrew Evans, and he'll need to watch his mirrors before too much longer as well, because Callan O'Keefe is still closing. There's still quite a gap between the pair of them, but Callan O'Keefe is charging again, looking to try and make up the deficit that exists following his additional 1 minute in the pits. So Colin Noble leads the race. This is the number 79 car that leads the championship. It's finished either 1st or 2nd in every race so far this year. Great consistency from Colin Noble and Alistair McCaig. As for Andrew Evans, who's now down into 3rd place, you can see, yeah, absolutely being caught by the Douglas Motorsport car in the hands of the South African driver Callan O'Keefe, making his debut in sports car racing, let alone LMP3 Cup this weekend, and has driven superbly well. Turns his way through the left-hander at the Vale, then starts to flick right before they turn their way through Club Corner and past what is the Grand Prix start-finish line and the wing to the driver's right. And you can see that the inevitable is surely not that far away. Callan O'Keefe flashing his lights, looking to try and mount a challenge for an overall podium place. We've not seen a podium as yet so far this year for Christian England and Andrew Evans, or the number 2 car in general, because CJ Wilson's also driven this car throughout the course of the year. But I think it's going to be hard push for Andrew Evans to be able to hang on to this place, because it is a very hard charging drive from Callan O'Keefe, both in part 1 of the race and now in part 2 as well. He closes right onto the coattails as they get onto the hangar straight, jinks out from behind what is Andrew Evans, and he's going to have the inside line as they head up towards Stowe Corner. So through goes the South African ahead of the American to take up what is a final podium place at this stage. How much further progress Callan O'Keefe can make, I think, is a bit of a mute point, because he's got still a significant deficit if he wants to try and overhaul the advantage of the leading pair, that being Colin Noble and Matt Bell. So I suspect 3rd is probably as good as it's going to get for the flying South African. So here comes our race leader, Colin Noble, through Brooklands for the final time, up towards Luffield Corner at the wheel of the Ecuria Cost-supported number 79 car, on course for a 5th win of the season. Matt Bell did close the gap in the closing stages, but it's a 5th win of the season for Colin Noble and Alistair McCaig. They are the winners of round 7 of the championship, and it's going to be Matt Bell who takes the checkered flag himself, and Tony Wells, who drove in the first part of the race, finish in 2nd position. 3rd is going to go the way of this car here, Callan O'Keefe, the South African driver, making his debut in the championship, making his debut in sports car racing. A hard charging fight through the field following a spin at the first corner and a 60-second additional time penalty in the pits. He has surely, as has Wayne Douglas, got to be very pleased indeed with that. Cars take the checkered flag. It's time to hear from our winning drivers on the podium.
Yeah, no, it was a great race. It was a close one actually at the start. We nearly got taken out. It was actually O'Keefe that hit our back right corner, hit our wheel quite heavily, so we were lucky we didn't get a puncture and spun round, but we managed to keep it going. And once we cleared the start, just got my head down and pulled a gap from Tony Wells behind. Christian England was very quick. We weren't going to catch him, so it was just a case of managing the gap and bringing the car home for Colin.
Another hard race. Pace was strong though right the way through, and yeah, we could just the car that we had there was so consistent. I could push really hard on it, like 100% every lap to catch the leader, and we got a clean move on him. So we just built the gap from there, and then we started pulling away. Matt Bell came through with me, so then we just gapped him at the end there, and I think we did our fastest lap at the end. So the car's strong.
We made some changes for the race, and I guess the nice car that we had yesterday wasn't there anymore. So we just had a load of oversteer. I don't really know why, so we're going to have a little discussion and a little team brief because, from last night and yesterday afternoon and this morning, I thought that the car was going to be really, really on it. But anyway, Alistair and the blue car came together in the first corner, and I unfortunately lifted off. We had the discussion with the foot afterwards because I could see a gap, but I'd already lifted, unfortunately. So I followed Alistair in third, and I had a bit of a moment in through the right-hander in Maggots, and that sort of, he gapped a couple of seconds off that, and then basically I sort of pulled a bit back, then he pulled a bit, and we came in about 4.5 seconds apart, and we finished 3.5 seconds apart, so that was it really.
I mean, it was just head down as soon as I got out, pushing as hard as I possibly could. And as Tony said, just unfortunately not the car that we had in free practice this morning even. Lost a 1.5 seconds compared to the time I did this morning, so I have to get our heads in the books and have a look why that was. I was just chasing Colin down as hard as I could, and they just didn't quite have it in us. Managed to get the gap down, as Tony said, from when we pitted, but just not quite enough. In those last couple of laps, the car went off even more, and that was the gap was just a bit too much to make up. So we'll lick our wounds and live to fight tomorrow.
Yeah, well, obviously it's my first time in anything with a roof, so coming into this weekend it was going to be a bit difficult. I've not got my AM driver this weekend for various reasons, but unfortunately he couldn't be here, so I then had a 60-second penalty, had to start last, and I spun in turn 1, trying to avoid some contact when all the AM drivers were on the brakes a bit earlier than expected. So we've made it quite difficult for ourselves in that one, but the team did a great job. They gave me a great car, and to get a podium on my sports car debut, I'm pretty pleased with, making up kind of like an 80-second deficit, if you want to call it that. And I think we had the fastest lap as well, so it's a good showing from everyone, and hopefully we can go 2 better tomorrow.
Suffice to say that you've enjoyed it and would like to race these cars again?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sports cars has always kind of been on my radar, but I've never really known how to get my foot in the door with it. So when Wayne called me up and said, do you want to do it? It was a great opportunity, and I jumped at it straight away, and hopefully this won't be the last time you see me, and hopefully it won't be too long before I'm back in one.
Confirmation of the results then. The race is won by Colin Noble and Alistair McCaig, their 5th win of the season. And in second place, it's Tony Wells and Matt Bell. Callan O'Keefe with a hard-charging 3rd place on his own. And 4th is Christian England and Andrew Evans. 5th place goes the way of Dean Gibbs and Alex Capardi. And completing the top 6, Andrew Bentley and Jack Butel. Join us for more after the break. Well, at Silverstone, Butte Motorsport ran a trial. Callum O'Keefe, who is a silver-graded driver, did the whole of the race on his own, but as a consequence suffered an extra 60 seconds penalty in the pits. It was a consideration for a change to the regulations to allow silver-silver pairings to come in, and we caught up with the drivers to seek their views as to whether that was a good idea.
It does add an interesting extra element to the race. Obviously, we've always got to make sure that that gap at the pit stop is correct, but yeah, it seemed to be okay.
Yeah, it's something maybe they're going to work on for next season. So yeah, if they get a good penalty, so it's a close race after the pit stops, it'll work well.
Obviously, you want some kind of performance balance, so everybody has a chance, and that seems to be the right sort of pit stop penalty. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it just adds a bit of an extra angle to the race, but obviously helps getting the numbers up for the entries. So if we can get more silver drivers involved in the championship, it all helps.
So here's the grid for the second race of the weekend. Then once more, Christian England will start the number 2 United Autosports car from pole, and alongside is the sister car, number 3, driven by Tony Wells. Row 2 of the grid is Callum O'Keefe going on his own at the wheel of number 72, and alongside is the championship leader Alistair McCaig, who starts the number 79 car. In the third row of the grid, the Speedworks car, number 96, with Andrew Bentley on board, and alongside is number 9, which is Dean Gibbs. The cars are on their final warming up lap around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. The red lights are on the gantry, and we are about to get round 8 of the 2017 Henderson Insurance Brokers LMP3 Cup underway here at Silverstone. Away we go, and it is Christian England that leads the pack up towards Copse Corner for the first time. Tony Wells just gets turned in second place to keep at bay the aspirations of the BRDC Formula 3 competitor Callum O'Keefe, who has little choice but to slot himself into third position with the championship leading car in the hands of Alistair McCaig behind in fourth place. Andrew Bentley in fifth, and at the tail end of the field is the silver and blue car, the second of the two Nielsen Racing prepared cars, in the hands of Dean Gibbs as they exit Chapel Curve and head onto the Hanger Straight for the first time. A good run out of Chapel Curve for the third place car, the light blue Douglas Motorsport car, in the hands of the South African driver Callum O'Keefe, looking to try and squeeze his way through and ahead of Tony Wells as they head up towards Stowe Corner, and he's able to do the job. So up to second comes Callum O'Keefe. Again, in this race he will have an additional 60 seconds to spend in the pits, because as we've just heard from the drivers, a silver pairing, and he's doing both elements of the race, so it's silver and silver in reality. This new trial for this weekend, he is going to have much longer to spend in the pits than others, so he's got to get on with it straight away. And the last thing Callum O'Keefe needs is any delays at the beginning of the race, whether it be either mistakes or possibly safety car periods, because he's hugely keen to thread his way to the front and build an advantage nice and early in the race. First thing he needs to do is try and dispense with these two cars behind, which is number 3, Tony Wells, being attacked by Alistair McCaig as they turn their way through the loop and up towards Aintree Corner. The next thing he needs to do is try and catch up fully with the race leader, which is still number 2, Christian England, going superbly well, the reigning European Le Mans LMP3 champion, under pressure from the driver that lies 6th in the BRDC F3 championship standings. His first weekend of sports car racing as they head out of Woodcote Corner over the start-finish line and complete another lap in what are very warm conditions here at Silverstone. So through Copse Corner, Callum O'Keefe not as yet has been able to unlock the door to the lead of the race, because Christian England driving superbly well, threading the car through the right and left, and then right flicks again at Beckett's. The change of direction of these LMP3 cars staggering to see at the Beckett's complex, and they can carry so much speed through the corners and then subsequently onto this straight, the Hanger Straight, that brings them out onto the far reaches of the Grand Prix circuit using the national pits this weekend. And now they turn their way through Stowe Corner. Good run through Stowe Corner for Callum O'Keefe, who might be able to have a nibble here as they head in towards the braking area for the Vale. Is he going to be close enough? He's got the inside line. He's got the inside line. And is he going to go through and take the lead of the race? Yes, braking as late as he possibly can. Goes through to take up the lead of the race. Well, Christian England will be well aware that the car that now leads is not going to accumulate championship points this weekend. This is just a trial to see whether silver pairings are going to be eligible to run in the championship either later on this year or possibly even in 2018. So already starting to pull away is Callum O'Keefe. Great fight going on now still for third and fourth place. Tony Wells with his hands full of what is the car behind him, that being Alistair McCaig. And then Andrew Bentley in the Speedworks car is not too far adrift as well. Another driver making his debut in the LMP3 Cup this weekend. We've seen lots of Andrew out in the GT Cup over the years. Well used to driving sports cars, but hasn't driven a full prototype car before, and is doing very well on his first weekend in the championship, despite having had very little seat time generally on the run-up to the weekend. So here comes third, fourth and fifth, all still together. Don't forget that Dean Gibbs is still in the race. He's just a little bit further back in 6th position, but it's 2 for the lead. It's a trio thereafter. And as they turn their way through Brooklands Corner and up towards the right-hander at Luffield, the order within the top 5 places still remains the same at this stage, despite the fact that third, fourth and fifth are not that far away from each other at all. So over the start-finish line goes the race leader. There is second, and now here comes that battle for third, fourth and fifth position. Tony Wells under pressure from Alistair McCaig. Andrew Bentley at the wheel of car number 96, just that little bit further back. The Speedworks car running superbly well in this race. They had problems, of course, before the lights even went out in race number 1. But for Tony Wells, there is no let-up in the pressure from Alistair McCaig. Now, these two cars are battling for overall championship honours in reality. We've seen lots and lots of wins for Alistair McCaig and Colin Noble. We've seen some wins for Tony Wells and Matt Bell, but they've also had the bad luck on their side as well. All of the time whilst Callum O'Keefe is just pulling away and building the advantage from this car here. Christian England in second position. Callum O'Keefe, of course, doing the full race on his own. Christian England will hand the car over to Andrew Evans, the American driver, come the pit stop window, as they now thread their way through what is the conclusion of yet another lap. Over the start-finish line comes the race leader, using all of the curbs, throwing the car in towards the right-hander at Copse Corner, bouncing over the curbs on the exit of the corner. Callum O'Keefe is yet again, as he did in race 1 of the weekend, charging, building an advantage, because he knows the task in hand. He knows he's going to have to spend an extra 60 seconds in the pits relative to the others, where they will all spend 70 seconds. So for Callum, it's 70 plus 60. Lots of work for him to do. There goes Alistair McCaig. He is still safely running in third position at this stage, as Callum O'Keefe is about to thread his way round through Luffield yet again. Ticking off the laps continually goes the South African driver, just 20 years of age, and is about to now head over the start-finish line with the pit stop window having opened. So at the end of this lap, we may well start to see some drivers dash for the pit lane. And as Callum O'Keefe then stretches his legs up towards the left kink at Maggots, that then brings him up towards the flicks at Beckett's corner, you can see that there is daylight between himself and the necks of the cars. Here's the number 96 Speedworks car in the hands of Andrew Bentley. Not that far behind Alistair McCaig, but Andrew is diving for the pit lane this time to hand the car over to Jack Butel. Also number 3 Tony Wells is in to hand the car over to the pro driver, that being Matt Bell. Well, Tony Wells has concluded his driving stint. Let's catch up with him in the pit lane.
Well, it went well from the start. I got actually hit slightly from the blue and white car. Just a touch. I was hoping that the tyre was okay, so it didn't deflate. And he overtook me down in Stowe, but we're not racing him, so I let him go. And then it was just a case of concentrating on lap times and trying to pull a gap to Alistair. So I had about 5 seconds, I think, at the stop to Alistair. So that's who we're racing. So we just work on trying to be quicker than them.
So fingers crossed for the win, huh?
Yes, I don't want to tempt fate anymore. I've been there before, so fingers crossed, yeah.
Good to hear the thoughts of Tony Wells in the pit lane, but also into the pits now has come Alistair McCaig. He is just giving way to Colin Noble. Of course, they secured victory in the first of the 2 races at Silverstone at the weekend, and see whether the Ecuria Cost team might be able to make it a double. Let's catch up with Alistair McCaig after his driving stint.
Pretty straightforward. Tony Wells has some great pace in that first stint there, so we were struggling a bit with overpressured tyres. It's a lot warmer today, so the car was pretty difficult to drive. We've dropped the pressures down for Colin in the pit stop, so we'll see how we go. We're sort of tagging on to the back of Matt Bell at the moment, but we've got a bit of work to do.
A good stint popped in by Alistair McCaig, running 4th on the road, but now, as he suggested, it's up to Colin Noble to see what he might be able to do in the second part of the race. All the cars have to remain stationary for 70 seconds, so the clock hasn't ticked away as yet. Coming into the pit lane directly ahead of the car that we're looking at is the car of Dean Gibbs. He's about to give way to Alex Caparra at the wheel of the second of the 2 Nielsen racing prepared cars, but the Ecuria Cost supported Nielsen car of Colin Noble is about to head back out into the race. So rejoining the race, as is the number 3 car that's now in the hands of Matt Bell. We've still got the sister car to it, number 2, the United Autosport car that leads the race at this stage. Christian England hasn't come in as yet. He's opted to stay out a bit later into the pit window. So here comes Matt Bell, and you can see the Ecuria Cost car just behind it now in the hands of Colin Noble. These 2 drivers will want to get on with it straight away to push for overall victory. So there goes Matt Bell. Here comes Colin Noble. Gets a little bit sideways on the exit of Beckett's, has to bounce over the curbs on the inside of Chapel. So a bit too keen perhaps to get on with it there. Here's Colin Noble, and then we will see heading out onto circuit, also behind them, the Speedworks car. Let's catch up with Andrew Bentley in the pit lane.
The car felt pretty good, and it was just really my job this weekend just to make sure Jack has a clean run. We're obviously gathering points for his championship assault, so I'd like to have kind of brought the battle a little bit tighter to the Nielsen car and the other United car. But to be honest, I was happy if I could still see them. So that was my job this weekend: keep Jack in the hunt and bring him a nice clean car back.
I mean, there's quite a close little battle shaping up there, isn't there? There's only sort of 3 or 4 seconds between a little gangler view, so he should be well placed.
It's a really interesting dynamic out there, yeah, with the sort of quicker drivers, slower drivers, and I know there's obviously not many cars, but it's the level is so high. These guys are running at the front of the European Championship, so it's properly competitive. So it's really tough out there, and yeah, it should be a really good fight. Definitely a very quality field.
Well, Andrew Bentley thoroughly enjoying his weekend of LMP3 Cup Championship racing in the UK, and as he suggested, a very, very competitive championship. The pit window still remains open here at Silverstone. One car hasn't pitted as yet, though, that being the number 2 car of Christian England, so he leads the race because Callum O'Keefe has now come into the pit lane and is in the process of conducting his pit stop. In fact, I can see a car moving in the pit lane. It looks as though, yeah, the South African driver is heading back out onto circuit. He had to remain stationary for an extra 60 seconds. He's got more work to do, and join us for that after the break. Welcome back to Silverstone for round 8 of the 2017 Henderson Insurance Brokers LMP3 Cup. That car there, the number 9 Nielsen racing car, has now been vacated by Dean Gibbs and has been taken over by Alex Kapadia, who's got a whole host of experience racing LMP2 and LMP3 in Europe over the last few years. He was also a regular racer in radical sports cars, both domestically and throughout Europe. So he is looking to try and push on for a car that's currently off the lead lap of the race. This is the race leader, car number 2, the only car that hasn't pitted as yet, that being Christian England at the wheel of the number 2 United Autosports car. He'll hand the car over to the American driver Andrew Evans, and the car that's sitting directly behind him at the moment is the car that was leading before the pit window. That is the light blue and white car of Callum O'Keefe. He had to spend 70 seconds in the pits, as everybody has to do, plus an extra 60 seconds thereafter, because he is a silver driver and he is racing solo. As into the pit lane comes what was the race leader. So into the pits comes Christian England to hand the car over to Andrew Evans. Whilst out on circuit, this is the battle for 4th and 5th position at this stage. Jack Butel, the driver who used to race in the MSA Formula last year, under pressure from the driver that currently races in the BRDC Formula 3 Championship, that being Callum O'Keefe. As they turn their way through Vale Corner, the Speedworks car just ahead of the Douglas Motorsport machine. Through the right-hander, accelerate their way over what is the Grand Prix start-finish line. It'll be in use in just a couple of weekends' time here at Silverstone. But in the meantime, let's catch up with Christian England in the pits.
It was a decent first stint. We had a bit of a lead there, so I've pitted and handed over to Andrew, and hopefully he can improve his pace a little bit from yesterday. And yeah, we should be in for a decent result, I think.
Has the track changed much from qualifying or from the race yesterday?
Yeah, as the temperature picks up, I think you, in general, you lose grip. The engines don't perform quite as well when the temperature heats up. So yeah, obviously the lap times are a little bit slower than what they were in qualifying. You've got high fuel, not new tyres, so yeah, so the lap times are going to be slower, but it's the same for everyone.
2 super stints by Christian England over the course of this weekend. So Andrew Evans it is that leads the race at this stage. In second position is the sister car in the hands of Matt Bell. So it's a United Autosport 1-2 so far this year. We've not seen Andrew Evans and Christian England feature on the podium as yet so far this year. So if they could claim a win, they'd be absolutely ecstatic. A podium for them would still be a season's best, but they are going to come under an ever-increasing amount of pressure from the charging Matt Bell, who has been doing a bit of racing over in Asia this year at the wheel of a car in the Asian Le Mans series. The 27-year-old starting to close in on the American driver Andrew Evans, who's 28 years of age nowadays, and as they get ever closer to each other, pretty much nose to tail heading towards the top of the Hangar Straight. How easy is it going to be for Matt Bell to try and pick the pocket of Andrew Evans, to try and take up the lead of the race? Of course, Matt Bell and Tony Wells have got a championship to think about here, and it looks like Matt Bell has got the run this time, heading in towards the braking area for the Vale. He goes through and takes up the lead of the race. Still a United Autosports 1-2, but the order now reversed. The number 3 car leads. The number 2 car in the hands of Andrew Evans is down into second position, and this is exactly what Matt Bell needs now. Clear road ahead so that he can just press on, push, and try and maintain what is a reasonable advantage he's got between himself and his main championship rival, which is going to be the car that was driven by Alistair McCaig in the first part of the race and is now in the hands of Colin Noble. So out of Chapel, onto the Hangar Straight comes the race leader. There is the gap between first and second, and there is the gap between second and third. So Colin Noble beginning to close in at the wheel of the Nielsen prepared, a Kuriakos supported machine. And the former Radical SR1 champion is late on the brakes as he can be up towards Stowe Corner, turning his way through the right-hander. The Pirelli tyres working hard, all of these cars fueled by Sunoco as well, and for Colin Noble. He's a driver that is leading the Sunoco Whelen Challenge standings and potentially might win a prize of heading out to America to race in the Rolex 24 at Daytona next year. But for the moment, his efforts will be fully focused on trying to hunt down the car ahead of him at this stage. Matt Bell pulling away in the lead of the race. This car here, number 2, which is Andrew Evans, now starting to very much come under pressure from the race 1 winners of the weekend, Colin Noble and Alistair McKay. Colin Noble behind the wheel, and all of the time whilst this car here is building the advantage. So through Stowe Corner, safely in the lead of the race goes Matt Bell, the race leader. Here is the squabble for 2nd and 3rd coming through, 5 or 6 seconds afterwards. We're getting ever closer to the coattails of Andrew Evans, who makes a mistake at Stowe Corner and instantly allows Colin Noble to squeeze his way through. So Andrew Evans just ran wide at Stowe Corner. You could see he was on the dusty part of the tarmac, and then the car just couldn't get turned into the apex. So it's another place gained for what is Colin Noble. Another place lost, unfortunately, for Andrew Evans, who is still in the podium places, let's not forget. But he will be conscious that Callum O'Keefe, following his additional 60 seconds in the pits, is starting to charge his way back up through the order. In fact, here he comes now. You can see his lights are ablaze. We have seen some fantastically quick driving over the course of this weekend from the silver-graded driver Callum O'Keefe, who's done both races on his own. And certainly, if silver pairings are to be allowed in the Henderson Insurance Brokers LMP3 Cup, that is going to make for a very, very exciting championship. And I think, as most people agree, it's going to bring more cars into the championship and open up greater opportunities for what has been a great first season, really. We've had some super racing. The quality of the field cannot be questioned either. And with the field here at Silverstone being one of the lower of the season, I'm sure that things are looking very bright for the future for the championship. This is the battle for 3rd place. Flashing his lights comes Callum O'Keefe. What is Andrew Evans going to do about it? Well, the answer is still keep Callum O'Keefe behind him. So the American under pressure from the South African as they turn their way out of Stowe Corner. And very good on the brakes all weekend has been Callum O'Keefe. He dives to the inside, has the inside line for Vale, and is able to very quickly squeeze his way through and take up what is now 3rd position. Down to 4th goes Andrew Evans. He would dearly have liked a podium finish, but it would appear it's, again, not to be, unfortunately, for himself and Christian England, despite the fact that the car has started from pole in both of the races over the course of this weekend. So they're now turning their way through Village, up towards the left-hander at the loop. From there, it's hard on the throttle, and over the start-finish line shortly to conclude another lap, which is where our race leader has just gone. That is the gap between 1st and 2nd. It certainly looks as though the gap may be coming down just a shade, not huge amounts, but it's going the right way as far as Colin Noble is concerned, trying to close the gap on Matt Bell. But I would suspect for Matt Bell, our race leader, it's more just a case of him maintaining the advantage. He doesn't want to overdrive the car. He just needs to drive as quickly as he can to maintain the gap and not come under pressure. Callum O'Keefe, in the meantime, is still throwing caution to the wind. Another new fastest lap just having been posted for the number 72 Douglas Motorsport car, as he looks to try and see what he might be able to do. However, onto the last lap of the race now goes Matt Bell. So just one more tour of the 3.66 mile Silverstone Grand Prix circuit between Matt Bell and Tony Wells, and what for them would be a 3rd victory of the season. They claimed a victory at Brands Hatch, they claimed a victory at Spa-Francorchamps, and they claim a victory here at Silverstone in round 8 of the 2017 Henderson Insurance Brokers LMP3 Cup. Coming through in 2nd place is Colin Noble, partnered up with Alistair McKay again over the course of this weekend, and it's another charging drive from Callum O'Keefe, who really has made heads turn in his debut in this championship, of course, making his debut also in a sports car this weekend. Here is the battle for what is 4th and 5th position, all getting very close towards the end. Jack Butel absolutely burning the tyres up on the exit of the corner in his pursuit of the car of Andrew Evans, but it's not quite to be. Andrew Evans will come through and finish in 4th place, just ahead of Jack Butel, who is teamed up with Andrew Bentley, who will complete the top 5. Confirmation then of the results. It's a 3rd win of the season for the number 3 car of Tony Wells and Matt Bell. In 2nd position is number 79, their main championship rivals, Colin Noble and Alistair McKay. 3rd, another charging drive from number 72, Callum O'Keefe. And in 4th position, Christian England and Andrew Evans. 5th place goes the way of Andrew Bentley, making his debut in the championship alongside Jack Butel in the Speedworks car this weekend. And 6th was Dean Gibbs and another debutant in the championship, Alex Capardia, in the 2nd of the Nielsen Racing cars.
Really pleased with that. So different me turned up this morning for qualifying. Car was a bit better and I was a lot better, and so 2/10 off pole. I was quite pleased with that. Start went well. I got absolutely tiny hit from Callum at the start. But anyway, it didn't affect anything. It just got me head down. I let him go because we're not really racing him. So it was all about pulling the gap to Alistair. And I was about half a second a lap quicker than Alistair, and I gave my colleague here 5 seconds. So job done for me.
Yeah, obviously very handy to be given a lead over our championship competitors. Obviously wasn't lead of the race at that point, so still had to get my head down when I came out of the pits. I think I put in a half decent outlap. Managed to get a bit of clear air between myself and the Acuri car. And then, as I say, just got my head down, chased down Andrew, managed to nick P1 from him, and then yeah, it was just a case of managing the gap into the end of the race. So much more simple than yesterday. We'll have a few more of them, I think.
Yeah, Tony and Matt drove well actually. Tony had the legs on me in the first stint. I was suffering from quite high tyre pressures on the rear, which we reset for Colin at the pit stops. But yeah, it was a pretty straightforward race really, and Colin brought the car home in second.
Yeah, same. Yeah, well, the gap was a little bit big to shut. We were shutting it slowly at the end there, just by a few tenths of laps. It wasn't quite enough, but pace was strong and second still. Not a bad result.
Well, it all helps with the championship, doesn't it?
Definitely.
This race was a bit easier than yesterday's, obviously without a spin and a 20-second kind of deficit, but we still had to carry the 60 seconds on as per the regulation, so it was always going to be a bit of an uphill struggle. But I managed to finish, I think, within 12 seconds of the lead, set the fastest lap of the race, got the Sunoco fastest driver of the weekend award as well, so all in all, not a bad sports car debut.
Can we look forward to seeing you again here?
I really hope so. It's been great to be part of the championship. The cars really surprised me as to how much grip they've got on power, and it's been a real joy to drive. All the organisers, everyone's made me feel right at home, so hopefully it won't be too long before I'm back driving one of these cars again.
Let's have a look at the championship standings after Silverstone. Leading the championship on 183 points, we see Colin Noble and Alistair McKaig. A healthy 27-point advantage they have between themselves, and Tony Wells and Matt Bell, who are second. 75 points adrift is where we see Dean Gibbs, Scott Mansell, Andrew Bentley and Jack Butel, who have all driven the number 96 Speedworks car throughout the course of the weekend. And absentees at Silverstone, Richard Dean and Sarah Moore now drop down into 4th position with CJ Wilson, Christian England and Andrew Evans in the number 2 United Autosports car in 5th. Join us next time out at Snetterton in Norfolk.